Hey friends, today I'm going to be checking out some of the creepiest true crime stories on TikTok. True crime is terrifying, it keeps me up at night. The details are equal parts disturbing and fascinating, really, because I just want to know what the hell was going on up here for the person perpetrating the crime. Right here, I'm going to give you a trigger warning for crimes against minors, murder, and rape. Without further ado, let's watch some creepy stuff.
Let's talk about another murder that was solved 30 years later thanks to DNA. This is April Tinsley. There she is. 1988, she was 8 years old walking home from her friend's house, which was just 3 blocks away. She never came home, and some people saw her crying, getting dragged into a blue truck.
You saw her crying and getting dragged into a blue truck, but you did nothing about it?
3 days and 20 miles later, her body was found face down in a ditch. There were a few suspects initially, nothing really panned out. 2 years later, they found this message
The handwriting on that
door.
message is
That
terrible.
was really it until 2004 when notes started popping up on little girls' bicycles. Notes that look like this. I'll do this so you can pause it.
Okay, I'm pausing it. Hi honey, I've been watching you. I am the same person that kidnapped and rape and kill April. You are my next victim. If you don't report this, what does it say? If you don't report this to police, and if I don't see it in the paper tomorrow or on the local news, I gotta be honest, I can't make out that last sentence, but obviously this is something creepy and disgusting.
With these notes were used condoms and photos of a man from the waist down.
Nobody wants to see that, my guy.
Condoms matched the DNA from April's body. 2018, Indiana passed a law saying felons had to submit their DNA, which is how they found John Miller.
This guy looks exactly how I thought he would look.
They showed up, said, "Do you know why we're here?" He said, "April Tinsley."
I really hope this guy is getting what he deserves in prison, if you know what I mean. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna move on.
Let's talk about the Barbie and Ken killers.
Barbie
Paul
and Ken
Bernardo
killers.
and Carla Homolka met at a bar in Canada in 1987. They got married just 2 months later, and over the course of nearly 3 years, murdered at least 3 teenage girls.
At least?
The first victim was Carla's little sister Tammy, who the couple drugged with animal tranquilizers, raped, and tortured to death. The second was 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey, who the couple brutally tortured and sexually abused before strangling Leslie and cutting her body up into little pieces and placing them into concrete blocks. The third victim, Kristen French, was abducted in 1992 and her naked body was found just 4 days later by police. This eventually led to the couple's arrest and both of them to be charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Carla was given a 12-year sentence, whereas Paul was given life in prison because Carla actually testified against him in court. Carla has been out of jail for a few years and is now married to her attorney's brother and has 3 children.
What? They let this bitch out? She has kids? I feel like that shouldn't be allowed. I feel like that's illegal. I wasn't expecting that. I just thought they were gonna both be in jail where they deserve to be. I don't care that she testified against him. She was obviously in on it. She was down with it. Now she has kids of her own. She just gets to live this free life after doing something like that. What is justice? I don't know how anyone wanted to marry her after this. Well, that was terrible. We're moving on.
It just doesn't make sense. This case is strange. Joshua Maddox went missing in 2008 and he wasn't found until 2015. When an unused cabin a quarter mile away from his home was being demolished, his body was found inside the chimney with his knees above his head, and the police ruled it an accidental death, and they said he climbed in from the top and got stuck.
Okay.
But that doesn't explain how he got in the chimney, because there was a metal grate on top of it blocking the entrance, and he couldn't have gone in through the fireplace because there was a heavy breakfast bar that had been ripped out of the wall and pushed in front of it. Or why he was only wearing a shirt. All his other clothes were folded up inside the cabin.
No one's gonna crawl up almost completely naked into a chimney. That too, go into the cabin, take their clothes off except for their shirt, fold it up, and then try and climb the roof to get back into the cabin they were just in, through the chimney that has a grate on top of it. This feels like a cover-up.
So he would have had to have been inside the cabin, taken off his clothes, gone outside, climbed up on the roof, and then tried to enter the cabin again through the chimney?
Something weird definitely went down there. I'm not sure what, but something weird. And we're moving on.
This is the first bird
The
to
first
ever
bird,
testify
I
in
want to
court.
see where this is going.
On May 13, 2015, police arrive at a home near Sand Lake, Michigan. Inside, they find the bodies of Marty and Glenna Durham. Marty had been shot 5 times, and Glenna was shot twice in the head but survived. After making a full recovery, Glenna told police that somebody had broken into their home before shooting them and fleeing. Marty's 3 children were going through things inside of his home when they found a manila envelope. Inside the envelope, they found suicide notes written by Glenna. Just a couple weeks before Marty's death, he received a phone call from a family member. The family member told him he had seen Marty's home in the foreclosure section of the newspaper. Marty had no idea about this, as Glenna was the one that took over the bills, and she hid from him that they were facing foreclosure. Right. Even after finding the suicide notes, Glenna still proclaimed she was innocent. That is, until Marty's parrot began reenacting the crime scene. The new owner noticed him arguing in 2 different voices, and the last thing he said was,
That parrot's voice was insane. I feel like I need to watch footage of this parrot alone. This parrot solved the crime. I bet Glenna wishes that they didn't have a parrot at that point.
Glenna was put on trial for the attempted murder-suicide of Marty Durham, and Marty's parrot was the key witness.
I'm definitely gonna find recordings of this parrot because now I need to just hear this argument that it was reenacting. And the way this parrot cussed. All right, we're moving on to the next one.
This is why you shouldn't go for walks in Sweden. In 2008, a Swedish woman went out for an evening stroll with her dog, but never came back. Her husband went looking for her and found her dead next to a lake. The police immediately blamed her husband and sent him to jail. After a few months, the woman's forensic analysis report came back, and it was clear the husband was innocent because there was all this hair and saliva on the woman's body that was not his. It turns out there is a very strange phenomenon that occurs in Sweden in the fall when all of the apples have fallen off of their trees. Those apples ferment, and then hordes of moose eat those apples, becoming drunk and oftentimes very belligerent, like this drunk moose who got stuck in a tree. The hair and saliva of the killer belonged to a drunk Swedish moose.
Okay, I was absolutely not expecting this story to take the turn that it did. A murderous moose. Absolutely not Bullwinkle. Can you imagine stumbling upon your dead wife or your dead loved one, and it's not another person you can hold responsible for this murder? It's a moose. Drunk off of apple juice. Yeah, so I guess I'm not going to Sweden in the fall. And if I do go in the fall, I'm definitely not going to be walking around where there's potential moose and apples. Because clearly that's a bad combination. So I guess we're going to move on.
What is a crime that happened in your area that you think everybody should know?
This is Maddie Clifton. I personally hate that if you Google her right now, her murderer's image comes up before her own image, so take a good look. I'm sorry, I have a lot of rage concerning this case because I was about Maddie's age when she went missing, and she went missing in Jacksonville, Florida. Her photo was everywhere. The community was desperate to find her. My mother taught me like stranger danger from this case, okay? She was missing for a little over a week, and it's insane, so bear with me. On November 3rd, 1998, Maddie Clifton went missing. She was 8 years old. The community went nuts trying to find her, and across the street, the Phillips family was searching as well. Phillips, who was 14 years old at the time. The search went on for so long that they doubled it from $50,000 for a reward to $100,000. It wasn't until a little over a week later that Melissa Phillips, Joshua's mother, was cleaning his room when she thought his water bed was leaking. When she looked under the bed, she found the remains of Maddie. All right, it gives me the creeps to have him behind me. I literally hate the man. I'm thankful that Miss Phillips ran out and immediately told the cop. He is currently serving life in prison, but like and follow for part 2.
So the kid who murdered her was 14? And I have no words. Like, what's wrong with you? I can't even imagine the horror that mom must have felt when she thought the waterbed was leaking and then she found the remains. Honestly, there's not much commentary I can offer here. This is just vile. So we're gonna move on to the next one.
I want to bring light to a person whose death has not been talked about enough in the Black community and just in general. So this is Kendrick Johnson, and he was murdered on January 11, 2013. His body was found rolled up in this mat at school, which is just completely disturbing. Detectives ruled this an accident, which is completely absurd, but I'll get into why they ruled it as an accident later. Detectives said that he went into the mat to retrieve his shoe and he got stuck and suffocated. His family did not believe this, so they did some digging on their own and hired somebody to actually check out his body. It turns out that he died from blunt force trauma. It is suspected that 2 white males that went to his school actually killed him because they were seen on video coming into the gymnasium after him. It was later found out that he was stuffed with newspaper too. He had no organs or intestine. I believe one of the boys' dad actually was a police officer, which is why this was so easy to cover up.
Of course.
His family sued, but that would never bring back Kendrick Johnson, and that would never bring actual justice.
That's so gross. The fact that this happened, the fact that they ruled this as an accident, it's obviously not an accident. How would anyone suffocate in a mat that has 2 big holes on the side? That makes no sense to me. There's free-flowing air. This is messed up. This needs to stop. And we need to get the real perpetrators in jail. So you're telling me he removed his organs too and ate a bunch of newspapers? Right. Or maybe he was just a newspaper man, made of newspaper. That's not how this works. Get the criminals behind bars. Okay, so that was creepy, to put it mildly. I can't believe we live on a planet with people like this. Be careful out there. If this was interesting to you, hit me with a like, drop your favorite true crime story below, and please subscribe to my channel. It helps me out so much when you do. Until next time, sleep with one eye open.